Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.
Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Jean Till, and on today's show, we will be visiting with Dr. John Bishop, founder of Forge, and we'll be discussing the crisis of men and masculinity in the church.
Looking forward to Dr. Bishop. He's a friend of the Central Iowa, the Diocese of Des Moines, in terms of what he's done, but kind of a coming home for him in many ways. So we'll hear about that and his recently new addition to his family also. But we're looking for the addition to the human race here as Jesus and the O antiphons these days, O Adonai today, O Lord of Israel, and the prayer and blessing that he is. And so our hearts are quickening, helps with a little extra nip in the air this week and all that the turn is. And obviously the liturgy's in the shortest of all Advents, as we have the fourth Sunday of Advent, rolling right into Christmas Eve. Yeah, maybe the parking lot's so clear, who knows, after the last Mass of the fourth Sunday, and then people claiming their spots for the first Mass of Christmas Eve, but a whole feast of liturgies and the great week, yes.
And Bishop, do I have to go to Mass for the fourth Sunday?
You get to go to Mass.
I know.
You get to celebrate these feasts in a beautiful way, and so we're looking forward to that. But, that sense of with Dr. Bishop coming up, in men and masculinity, and in this time of year, we have all the bowl games, the NFL is winding around, and so kind of just maybe to set it up just a little bit, the late Robert Irsay, who the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, who passed that legacy on to his son Jim, we know. But he has a spiritual side. He was a man of faith, but his kind of take on that and how he expressed that, he cites the Bob Dylan line, the truth was obscure, too profound and too pure. To live it, you have to explode. The truth is too profound and too pure. You have to explode. He says that's the aspect of being in these human bodies. No matter how you try, sometimes you get to that full expression of what we search for. We're searchers, and it's all really a search for God, a search for the higher power that we long for. But in the human form, we're left with our five senses in a lonely manner unless we go for the sixth sense. And that's the reason I've always loved those lines from Teilhard de Chardin. We're not human beings having a spiritual existence. We are spiritual beings having a human existence, being our essence. And so that's, all right, we might say he's dividing the human a little bit, as incarnate beings, spiritual and human, no division or polarity there, although some would like to split it up in our culture today, but that kind of sense of the incarnation. So we wonder that God would adopt this in this beautiful way, that God breaks in, God's passion and desire for us. He comes after us, yes, to save us from the darkness and the obscurity in which we admired ourselves, but it's a love affair also. And so maybe we have redirected and sent our passions in other ways. And not to be too critical of Mr. Irsay, but he said, we're being our essence. And so his example, that's the reason football, there's nothing else I'd rather be into on a Sunday. And so certainly that's for a lot of men, or other things, their passions as well. And, as one who appreciates a good game and everything else, particularly if my team is playing, but are these really pushing us to something else, something ecstatic that we're looking for, that we can siphon off that the drive that we have as men and women, and that desire that we have in union for God. So kind of getting my bearings today, also a great grace on this Friday, the 22nd. Sister Marilyn Unumakwe of the Immaculate Heart Mary Sisters from Nigeria, who've been a presence in our diocese, a presence in the Midwest, their regional house in Freeport, Illinois. They've decided they'd love to make our diocese a more permanent place of home, and so they've purchased a residence in Urbandale, which I'll be celebrating Mass later this afternoon, blessing the chapel, installing the Blessed Sacrament there, their own beloved that they've given their lives over in a beautiful way. And so we are grateful to them. They are assigned to us of what we are ultimately meant for as Jesus bursts into our lives, and that constancy of abiding and accompanying him and pointing us and reminding us who we all are called, whether it's religious men and women, married men and women, or those who are pursuing. Still, what is it God asks of us?
What a great gift for our diocese in this season of giving. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll visit with Dr. John Bishop, founder of Forge, and we'll be discussing the crisis of men and masculinity in the church. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Ashworth Vision Clinic. Complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and urgent eye issues. 515-440-4610. AshworthVision.com.
Iowa Catholic Radio would like to thank our business partner, Dino Storage, 2725 2nd Avenue in Des Moines, offering monthly rentals, indoor climate-controlled storage, and package delivery to your unit. Learn more at dinostorage.com.
Dad, how are things going in St. Vincent de Paul?
Awesome, Zoe. Our 6th Avenue, Army Post Road, and Windsor Heights locations are really busy. Steve Haveman, Executive Director of St. Vincent de Paul, thanking you for your continued support.
How can people help St. Vincent de Paul, Dad?
By donating and shopping.
St. Vincent de Paul helps everyone, even kids' lives.
Yes, Zoe, even kids' lives. Thanks for shopping at our St. Vincent de Paul thrift stores.
St. Vincent de Paul helps everyone, even kids.
Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. And on today's show, we're visiting with Dr. John Bishop, founder of Forge, and we'll be discussing the crisis of men and masculinity in the church.
Dr. John Bishop, thank you for being with us. We've had the privilege of making our acquaintance, a few conversations in the past year, and you kind of gave me a preview of where the Spirit was moving you, and left you bring your family, now expanded. Congratulations.
Yeah, we just welcomed, my wife and I, Caitlin, our third child into the family. Jack Angelus Bishop was born on December 10th. And Bishop, the pleasure is all mine. Thanks for having me here. I have enjoyed all our conversations, and on this, our 4th or 5th installment of Conversations about Forge, I suppose it's only fitting to put some microphones in front of our faces and share it with the world. So
tremendous.
Thanks for having me.
Bishop to bishop here. All right.
That's right. Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to make the joke. You know?
Dun, dun, dun. All right. People are groaning out there in Spirit Catholic Radio, Iowa Catholic Radio land. But
missed an opportunity. I should have named my son Archie, and it would have been.
If God blesses you with another,
That's
there's
right.
no chance.
That's right.
But and as a biological father, a natural father and husband, but your own path of the Spirit, you considered spiritual fatherhood and potentially and ordination.
Yeah.
How did that kind of unfold?
Yeah, so I did a year in seminary here in Des Moines, which to this day, one of the best years of my life. I spent, the 2014-2015 academic year at Mundelein Seminary in Chicago, studying for the Diocese of Des Moines. And I was one of those guys, I was 24 years old when I went to the seminary. I was one of those guys who'd kind of always thought about it. I'd been devout from a young age and thought that maybe I would make a good priest. Had a number of people very close to me counsel me to give it a go. And so after several years of thinking about it, probably too long thinking about it, spent a year in seminary. And what I gained in that year was a depth of interior life, more intellectual understanding about the faith. But perhaps more than anything else, for me, paradoxically, my year in seminary enabled me to enter into my vocation as a husband and father in the earthly sense, my marriage to Caitlin, being the father of my 3 children, without any hesitation, without any reservations. I was able to go to sort of leave it all on the field for the Lord, say, Lord, be it done unto me according to thy word. My experience in seminary was basically a great big thank you, but no thank you. And
Never heard that one.
and I was one who went to the seminary and did receive, at least for me, near perfect clarity to go out into the world and serve the Lord as a husband and a father.
Well, I think, I'm going to ask Brady in the studio eventually to make a clip of what you just shared, because that is the message we want to communicate to men. Last weekend at the Jesuit Retreat Center in Griswold, we had an annual Bishop's Vocation Retreat with men, and joined by some of our present seminarians as well.
Yeah.
And this is the very message we want to get. Don't overthink it. Don't be so much, is it going to be husband and father and seminary? I feel called to seminary right now, but these are not
just
competing goods, and you will be a better man for it.
Yeah.
You will, that opportunity for formation to integrate, and you'll be more free.
No, I will go to my grave a better man, because I took, in the end, 9 months, from August to May, an academic year in the seminary, because I was able to enter my vocation with confidence and without second guessing in the way that I think only seminary can really bring. It It was fantastic. I had a wonderful year in seminary. I mean, not
Can
to
I
mention,
go to seminary?
it's about the. I mean, you pray a lot, and I mean this in a very positive sense, in the true meaning of fraternity. A year in seminary is probably the best frat party that you could have. It's just a wonderful year. I mean, a lot of the friends that I had in seminary are still dear friends of mine today. Most of whom are now priests, some of whom also left and are now husbands and fathers. But all of us look back on that year with really fond memories.
Now, there may be so many seminary rectors out there cringing, frat party. Yeah.
I mean it in the positive sense of fraternity. Yeah, it's a wonderful
I won't
time.
go off into my own thing. But no, we need to remind the seminaries once in a while, because when they're in the thick of it, they don't see that this privileged time of bonding and things that are there. But that's maybe one of the larger issues in our culture is, coming to one's identity as a Christian disciple and as a man. I'm old enough, I finished my seminary in the late 80s. In the 90s, we had this whole movement of Iron John, a book about men by Robert Bly, kind of poet and man of letters. He was trying to wrap around the kind of whole mythopoetic mystique of men and what men had maybe lost sight of, and it kind of the self and everything else. And I'm not going to unpack that book because I didn't do my homework and reread it here. But here we are, a generation plus later, and there's still some of the same questions. Maybe some answers, but our Catholic faith offers us something that I think you, by virtue not only of who you are in your life experience, but the opportunity to delve in ever more, doctoral studies at Catholic U. You've been thinking about these things and then working with Focus and the Fellowship of Catholic University students. Can you see how these things all came together to lead you to the Forge?
Yeah, so I think the way that I've come to see it is that the last 10 years of my life have prepared me to found this organization. After I left seminary, I started working for Focus, the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. And technically, at this moment, I'm still employed by Focus until December 31st. Focus was wonderful. Spending time working with college students, I became conscious of the fact that there are so few young people in church, period, but thankfully those numbers are growing. But particularly so few men, so few young men in the church. Those statistics bear out at large in any given Sunday across the United States in a Catholic congregation. That congregation is going to be almost 2/3 women and only 1/3 men. There is a crisis of masculinity in the church, but that crisis plays out in the culture at large as well. You'll see, for example, declining rates of men going to college, declining rates of men entering the workforce, staying in the workforce, skyrocketing incarceration, jail rates of men. And all of that bodes very poorly because
addictive behavior,
all of the bad
suicide.
things increasing, all of the good things decreasing when it comes to men. And that's particularly problematic when you consider the fact that if you want to predict a child's, we'll just say a child's health, a child's flourishing, a child's happiness, okay, both in the natural and in the supernatural sense, the number one predicting factor that you can look at is that child's father. Okay, so if you have a dad, your rates of success in your work, your rates of educational success, all of that goes up. The likelihood of you going to prison, the likelihood of you developing addictive tendencies goes down. And then further, when it comes to the faith, as was shown as recently as there was actually a 2023 study, June 2023, by an organization called Communio, released a study which once again vindicated the relationship between the faithfulness of a father and the faithfulness of his children. If you want to predict whether or not a child is going to be faithful as an adult, obviously the child's family of origin, the child's educational background, all of that have a bearing on whether or not that child will be faithful as an adult. But there's no more powerful predictive factor of a child's faith as an adult than the faithfulness of that child's father. The Communio study in June of 2023, just called the Nationwide Study on Faith and Relationships, said that if there's any single factor that society should focus on now to produce faith in the next generation, it's to invest and increase in resident faithful fatherhood. So that study is, of course, a recent one, just in the past year, but there have been a number of studies which show the same thing all the way back to the 1980s. You mentioned a wonderful book by Robert Bly. I spent my time working for Focus and kind of experienced this crisis of men, crisis of masculinity firsthand just as a result of hundreds, thousands of conversations with young college students, then working at the United States Council of Catholic Bishops as well, seeing the same thing not only in Focus but in other organizations. I did my doctoral studies studying the crisis of masculinity in the church and the culture at Catholic U, and then defended a dissertation 2 years ago now on that crisis and on sketching ways forward. It was only after defending that doctoral dissertation that I had a kind of a fateful conversation with my wife almost a year ago now, saying, gosh, if only there was an organization that would
If only
that would devote itself to this problem and to the family at large.
Don't ask questions you don't want the answer to.
And in that dreaming, my wife, it's really all her fault. She turned to me and said, John, well, how about you just build that organization? And that led us to where we are today, to Forge and to everything we're doing there.
So maybe just to insert, not hopefully a digression, but you talk about the role of your wife. We assume perhaps, or the role of women. Obviously, Mary is at the heart of the church, heart of the Eucharist,
right?
And so even if women have strong faith and religiosity expressed in a devotional life, but the role of the mother and the family is pivotal, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
And oftentimes primary,
Yeah.
But, so all that counts for little in light of the Father. I mean, it's not a competition here, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Whenever I talk about these things, I like to begin with a quote from John Paul II. He says, "It's only in the duality of the masculine and the feminine that the human finds its fullest realization." That complementarity, that beauty, whether it's in a spousal relationship or whether it's in the complementarity that is brought to the family by a father and by a mother, everybody has their own voice, and things really only come fully to life when both the masculine and the feminine are brought to the mix. Now, what we're talking about here in family life, I say oftentimes the crisis, well, how do I say this? The reason that we're investing in men at Forge is not so much a function of male strength, but rather a function of male weakness. That for whatever reason, men oftentimes have a more difficult time connecting to their family, prioritizing their family, investing in their family, than do their feminine counterparts. And so for that reason, they kind of need to be bolstered, or you might say they need to be forged to focus on their role as a husband, father, focus on their families. And that's exactly what Forge is encouraging them, motivating them, empowering them to do. At Forge, we say we're a family formation company with a strategic emphasis on men. So we do intend to serve the entire family, but for our first couple of years of operations here, in order to create a distinctively masculine culture, one that's deeply inviting to husbands and fathers, future husbands and fathers, we're starting, for the first 24 months or so, exclusively focusing on men, though in the future we do hope to serve women as well.
Okay, so the inspiration, your wife, it wasn't the flight into Egypt, Joseph and Mary, but leaving Colorado and coming back to the home soil of Des Moines.
That's right.
Des Moines is an evolving place, and so there's a certain dynamism here. Can you comment on that?
There is an extraordinary dynamism in Des Moines. So it's interesting. We're broadcasting here off of 50th Street in West Des Moines. I grew up in a neighborhood off of 50th Street in West Des Moines, and moved back here. I bought a house just 8 doors down from my own father and mother. It's good to be back in Des Moines. I went to college, left Des Moines in 2008, went to Benedictine College, go Ravens. And since that time, I've lived in 7 or 8 different cities around the country, most recently in Denver, Colorado, working at Focus's headquarters there. We moved back here primarily to live, work, breathe, live our lives in and around my own family. I'm one of 6 kids, and 5 of those 6 kids now live here in Des Moines. My folks live in Des Moines. I went to Dowling and St. Teresa's grade school. It's good to be back home.
And generally they're happy about it, although there might be moments.
That's right.
That's when the boys get together.
Here and there, they may be like, man, I wouldn't mind it if John kind of moved back to Colorado. No, they've been absolutely wonderful. And I think that in addition to the personal reasons that we moved back here, God's doing something in Des Moines. I mean, I think, just sitting here thinking about all the energy behind Iowa Catholic Radio. I know they just recently launched a capital campaign here, and very, very excited for that. The enthusiasm around things like Prairie Fire Ministries, the wonderful things going on in Catholic education. I go back to Dowling, and I see groups like Ut Fidem going on there, and it just seems like in so many ways, and I'm sure, Bishop, you could name a dozen other wonderful things going on. The Christ Our Life
another
Conference.
Show, yes.
Yeah. There's something going on in Des Moines, and so let's go. All of these these wonderful movements within the church, at the diocese, in the parishes, in the nonprofits going on there. The church, each passing year in the city of Des Moines, is more vibrant than the church that existed here the year before, and I am so passionately excited to be a part of that.
Amen, alleluia. And that's my experience as I witness, and I think as we come out of the pandemic era, I think, this explosion, no credit to Robert Ersay, but I think, is really of a spiritual order, and Forge is going to be, I think, an integral element of that. We're going to be approaching a break very quickly here, but the monthly gatherings of men, I think that's one of the important moments, and the relationship with the core initiative of the Knights of Columbus. So let's pause as a tease and then come back to that, and you can give some of those details as we begin our next segment. Okay?
Sounds good.
Well, stay with us as we do continue our conversation with Dr. John Bishop, founder of Forge. And if you want to find out more information about Forge, go online to myforge.org. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry, including the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines and the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs. Sarah is an apostolate of the Worldwide Catholic Church dedicated to fostering and supporting priesthood and religious vocations. Sarahans strive to accomplish their mission through prayer, fellowship, and service to the bishop, priests, sisters, and all in religious formation, and in doing so to increase their own holiness. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org. Thank you, Sarahans, for your support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Would you like to get more involved as a volunteer? Intervisions Healthcare empowers at-risk women facing an unplanned pregnancy to make life-affirming decisions, but our nursing staff can't do it alone. Our Unplanned Pregnancy Clinic seeks dedicated advocates, receptionists, and nursing volunteers to meet the needs of hundreds of at-risk patients we see each year. If you are a people person who wants to help moms with unplanned pregnancies, contact us today at 515-440-2273 or visit ivhcare.org.
Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
We think about the convergence of the Spirit, the Knights of Columbus, and their own care to enhance the faith and discipleship of men in their core movement. But it's kind of been a happy merger, if you will, with Forge. And tell us about, if a man now, his interest has been sparked, what's going on with Forge?
Yeah, well, if you want to keep tabs on everything that's going on in Forge, particularly in the Des Moines, greater Iowa area, go once again to myforge.org, myforge.org. There's an events page there, and you can check out what we've got going on. We have a lot of wonderful events coming up here, and I'll just talk about our events in January and February. But before I do, I want to give a shout once again to the Knights of Columbus. So you mentioned them, Bishop Joensen. I am a Knight, love the Knights of Columbus. I just recently hopped off a call this past Friday with the national head of formation, Knights of Columbus, Damien O'Connor. They have a movement, I suppose, going on called CORE, which emphasizes things like small groups.
And it's C-O-R, the Latin
C-O-R, yeah. So from John Henry Cardinal Newman's phrase, cor ad cor loquitur, heart speaks to heart. And
preview of a show coming up in here on Making It Personal, but never mind.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, love Newman, and love the Knights of Columbus and CORE as well. But we, in partnership with the Knights, have a series of men's evenings going on here in Des Moines. And these are great opportunities for guys to come to learn more about their faith, but also to bring friends. So we do these evenings not at a church, oftentimes in places that don't really resemble churches at all, in order to create low barrier to entry spaces for guys who aren't spending a lot of time in church. We want those guys to come. We want to get those guys in our web of relationships. Hopefully get those guys in small groups to build them up as husbands and fathers, and eventually, hopefully, bring them back to the faith as well. So in January and February, we have 2 events coming up. The first one on January 18th. We have rented out Ironside Axe Club in West Des Moines, Iowa. At January 18th, you can come and you can have 3 hours of unlimited beer drinking and axe throwing. In the middle of that night, we'll have a wonderful about 35-minute talk by nationally renowned speaker Pete Barak, who's going to come and talk about masculine faith and the Holy Spirit. So if you want to come and lose a limb, you can. Do
you have to sign a waiver to go?
I'm sure Ironside Axe Club will have you sign your life away as you enter the building. But again, this, if not only yourself, come yourself. It's $25. By the way, it's usually $50 for 3 hours of axe throwing. You get it for $25 because we've rented out the whole place. But come, and don't come alone. Okay, it can be pretty hard to get people who have fallen away from the faith sometimes to come back to Mass. Or to come to a big Catholic event. It's a lot easier to say, hey, yeah, this, don't lie about it. It is a Catholic event, but come throw axes, drink some beer, and hear a great speaker. Okay. In February, we have another event coming up. This will be at the Tea Room downtown. It's Dr. Ralph Martin. And this
that's a big name.
Big name, yeah. Author of several best-selling books. And he's going to talk about something I think that is really important for fathers, husbands in the fold. So there's a lot of controversy outside the church, but also controversy inside the church. And how does one, remaining completely faithful to the magisterium of the church, optimistically, positively navigate some of these controversies as a husband and a father? And Ralph Martin will be speaking on that in February. Can you, the date there, I can see you have it up in February for Ralph Martin, if you'd remind me of that there.
It is Monday, February 26th.
Monday, February 26th.
There we have it. Well, yep. Dr. Bishop, may the Lord prosper these events. May something catch fire. And if the spouses need to jostle their husbands a little bit who've been listening, to put those 2 dates and give them absolute permission to go, may they do so. But thank you for all that you're about. May we continue to collaborate to bring forward great fruits in the lives of men and families in the diocese.
Great. Thank you, Bishop.
Well, this has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. Thank you to our guest and to all of our listeners in Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, or wherever you may be listening to Iowa Catholic Radio and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.